Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of rating your Papercraft models. After the first one, you all submitted a ton of Papercrafts, so I'm gonna have to go through these real quick to fit in each one. We have 19 in total, so thank you all for submitting your Papercrafts, and I will try to make this as quick as possible. Now again, like the disclaimer I made in the first episode, I'm going to be giving honest feedback here, but my goal is not to tear your models down, Please don't take it personally. I really want to help you improve your models and level up. I started exactly where you started, probably even worse than your first models. So without further ado, let's start reviewing. Alright, next we have, a collection. We have the Airbus A320 in the United livery. We have the Boeing 757-200, the Icelandair Hekla Aurora livery. We also have we have an A320NEO in the Vietnam Airlines livery, but I'm going to be focusing on the United one because it looks like it's the newest. And this builder says that they are experienced. For the United, the fuselage is very good, very smooth. I like that. Connections here are pretty good. I'll try to trim the paper that's under the tail a little bit just so you have a smoother connection right there. The wing is very smooth, looks great. One thing I would recommend is maybe folding that edge a little bit more tight. So fold it down more so that the wing is flatter, because in reality the wing of the A320 is not that thick proportionally. And if you fold that edge down a bit better, then you'll be able to attach that engine pylon completely onto the wing. Also looks like here that part of the engine pylon is a little bit disconnected, so make sure to focus on that. I think maybe focus on the cuts here a little bit, but overall I think the model looks overall pretty good. I'd also recommend trying to add the antennas that are included in the template, just for added realism. But looking at it overall, I would say it captures the form of the plane pretty well, so 4 out of 5 for experience. As for the other planes, I think the build quality is not as good as the United ones, but still alright. But you can see that the ink is really faded, and this is probably because it's had direct sunlight exposure. If you can afford it, there are anti-UV sprays. I use Krylon anti-UV spray, and it's also glossy, and so it makes sure the ink doesn't fade and that my paper doesn't yellow over time. Alright, next we have Antonov AN-225. This one's by Murph's Models, and the builder says that they are experienced. Looking at this, it looks really, really good. I like that the construction overall is very neat, very proportional. I like that you added these metal accents here. I'm guessing with metallic paper. I don't do this myself, but it looks really nice on this aircraft. The nose is really smooth. Great job with that. I would say the wing roots are a little bit creased. I've never actually built this model in particular, but so I don't know how hard this is in reality to get right. But try to work on not creasing your paper. If it does crease like this, it may indicate that you're using too thick of a paper. There's a possibility. Also, the paper looks a little bit warped here, so you're not getting as smooth of a connection with these parts. So try to focus on making the paper under as smooth as possible. But honestly, for this model, I'm nitpicking. Obviously, I can't see the landing gear, so I can't judge that. But based off of what I can see, for experience, this is 5 out of 5. Great job. Next, we have a Norse Boeing 787-9, and this builder says that they are intermediate. This looks amazing. For intermediate, I think you're setting yourself too low here. I'm just nitpicking, but there's just this little marks that I'm guessing they got onto your fuselage while you're building. Just be careful with that. Try not to get markings on your fuselage. I also see that there are some creases here around the glue tabs, Perhaps this is because you're using maybe too much glue when you apply the glue tabs, or maybe when you're rolling your paper to make it circular, you're pushing on the glue tab so it's creasing where there's extra paper. I personally apply my glue tabs after I roll the paper, but that's just how I build personally. But that's nitpicking overall. The shape of the wing is great. The engine, that's really good. For intermediate, this is 5 out of 5. Next we have Etihad Boeing 787-9-10. I actually don't know which one this is. 787. And this builder says that they are experienced. I love that fuselage right here. The paper is slightly wrinkly. That probably just means maybe you use too much glue or the paper is a little bit too thin. But the shape is really smooth. That's great. I'm noticing here where the tail attaches to the fuselage that is bulging a little bit up. So if you look at it from the side, it should taper like that, but it probably looks something like that from the side. I would recommend separating the tail and the fuselage when you build. It personally just helps me achieve this smoother fuselage shape better, whereas you're building the tail into the fuselage. I also see that over here, the wing, it's not exactly straight. You see that little bit of an angle up right there. So when you're making the wing root structure under, try to make sure that support structure is completely straight and not bent like that. Also try to focus a bit more on making that glued connection a bit more smoother. And likewise here, work on those smoother wing connections. And try not to wrinkle your winglets either. So I think the fuselage, the first part is pretty great. There are a little bit of details you have to work on. So in experience, I would rate this 3 out of 5. All right, this is Scissors and Papers template, LATAM Boeing 777-300. I actually have not built Scissors and Papers templates, so I don't think I'm the best judge, but looking at this template, I think the fuselage is pretty good. I really like this whole tail section here is very, very clean. I think maybe this engine piece is not as well aligned with the second engine piece, so try to work on that, but I know that these models are very tiny, so I'm taking that into account. These connections here are pretty good. The two things I will nitpick here are the nose piece is a little bit too big compared to the second piece. I don't know if that's a template problem or if that's a cutting problem, but if you can fix it, try to fix it. And then these cockpit windows here is something I've noticed with Scissors and Paper templates a lot, but the shape, it's a little bit different from the actual 777. I'll put up a picture right here. But the cockpit windows look a little bit flat here, so if there's a way you can angle these windows out a little bit more like that, it might help in making the model more accurate. But given the template and the size, for experience, this is, I think, 4 out of 5. Next, we have a Boeing 777X, the Emirates livery. This looks like the adapted Papercraft templates, and this builder says that they are experienced. Okay, I'm really confused. Judging from the background, it looks like this plane is really tiny, but I can't tell for sure. What scale is this? Let me know in the comments, because I can't really tell, but it looks tiny. So I'm going to keep that into account. I noticed that this wing root connection is not super neat. So try to add some paper right there to connect the two pieces. I think the engines are angled up a little bit too much. Try to angle it a little bit more parallel to the fuselage, because that's how engines generally are angled. This tail section is pretty neat. I do think that this piece is not as well aligned, but I'm going to assume that the scale is super tiny, and building Hermitcraft templates super tiny is pretty hard. So assuming that this is a tiny scale, I'll rate this a 4 out of 5 for experienced. Next we have an Iberia A320NEO. I think this is a Gadget templates. No, it's not. It's a Canon template. And this builder says that they are experienced. Overall, this looks really great. The shape, the proportions, everything is great. There are two things that I will nitpick on. The first is that the paper seems to be a bit wrinkly in some places. I think perhaps it is because you use too much glue there, or it's the glue tabs thing again when you're rolling the paper, so just be careful with that. And also, I see that some of the black ink is left over here on these seams. You want to cut inside the part a little bit so that you don't include any of the black ink in your parts, especially white fuselage. Just as much as possible, you want that smooth, uninterrupted white fuselage. And these engines, try to roll them a little bit smoother. It's very hard to get these perfectly circular, but I'm nitpicking here. And then just try to glue this tail part a little bit neater, and it also looks like the elevator is folded in a little bit. But I'll say those are pretty nitpicky. I think those little details hold it back a little bit, but overall very great. So I will give this a 4.5 out of 5 for experienced. Alright, this is a Egyptair Boeing 77-9. This person did not print this template but made it completely from scratch. They say they are intermediate. Oh, this is tough because I can't make airplanes without a template, so I can't really judge this that well. I will give you some things to work on though. First, try to get this distance even between the fuselage and the engine. It looks like on the right side this distance is greater than this distance, just from the angle. I could be wrong. Also, try to make these elevators a little more flat by using thicker paper or gluing more additional sheets of paper so that it doesn't curl up like this. Yeah, I will say that's pretty good for the Egyptair logo, and the tail as well, especially for being hand drawn. That's pretty good. So given that this is handmade, for intermediate, I'll give you a 3 out of 5. Alright, next we have an Etihad Boeing 77-9. This builder says that they are intermediate. Hey, this is really great for intermediate. Because you're intermediate, I can't nitpick that much. And honestly, the fuselage shape is really good. Very smooth. That's great. Try to glue that piece down a little bit better. I will also say that for your future development, try to glue that piece down. So focus on gluing those pieces down a bit better. But overall, hey, the engine is pretty smooth. Try to work on rolling those pieces a bit more smoother, but you connected that really great. The fuselage looks really good. I see a little bit of bulging here, but it's not too bad. Just keep working on that. Overall for intermediate, this is 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, next we have A350-900 Singapore Airlines Hermitcraft template. This builder says that they are intermediate. This is also very great for intermediate. I will point out things, but for intermediate, hey, this is pretty good. I see that the fuselage is bulging out here a little bit, so try to make that fuselage part a bit smoother. Again, you can build the tail separate from the fuselage like I do. Also, this engine pylon connection is not too smooth. I think especially because this piece is sticking out, you're not getting a smooth connection on the entire engine, because otherwise the engine pylon shape would be the correct shape. But otherwise, hey, for intermediate, this is great. Also focus on is not disconnecting that piece right there. It should be all one piece. But for intermediate, 5 out of 5 stars. Great job. All right, next we have a Qantas Boeing 787-9 and the Papercraft templates. And this builder says that they're a beginner, but I'm calling cap because there's no way you're a beginner and you're this good. The fuselage is super smooth. I mean, I see this part is a little bit wrinkled, but you can just roll that a bit smoother. That's fine. You got these details. That engine looks really good. Your fuselage is smooth all the way down to the back. It's not bulging in the back. Your wing dihedral is really good. It's pointed up. You're not a beginner. There's no way. But if you are a really beginner, dude, props to you. This is really amazing. Way better than my beginning models. For beginner level, this is 10 out of 5 stars. Next we have a Swiss A320NEO, and this builder says that they are beginner level. I see that there's a lot to point out, but I want to commend you. I see a couple of things. First, that even though you only had black and white paper, you made this work by coloring in all the graphics with red marker, and you did a really good job. I actually didn't even notice at first. I had to look really closely, so great job for doing the best with what you have. That's great. You also attempted all these really hard parts, the engines and this landing gear. I could not do this when I was a beginner, so props to you. That's really impressive. I do think that you're using too thin of a paper, so if you can get access to it, try to use thicker cardstock paper. Try to work on these connections between these pieces a bit here. I think being neater with your glue tabs will help in getting a smoother fuselage shape. Like I can see a little bit of these edges here. So you are using glue tabs, which is really good. Just try to make those seams a bit neater. Also try to spend more time on forming this engine pylon so it's a bit more accurate and it connects better with the engine. But hey, for beginner level, you took on a lot. I would not start with this as a beginner, but you did great, so I'll give you a 3 out of 5 stars. Alright, next we have a Lockheed TriStar L1011 in the prototype scheme, and this is a Merce models template. This builder says that they are experienced. I really like the fuselage. This is pretty good. I would say maybe focus on that dip right there. The actual L1011, the cockpit shape, it's a little bit more pronounced, but it might just be the angle. I'm not sure. I noticed that the wing here is not exactly where it should be, but it's a bit hard with these Merce models, getting the wings completely on the outline, but try to work on that. The engine is pretty good. I see that this part is a little bit warped, but overall it's alright. It's pretty negligible. This tail piece right here, it's pretty hard, but you did a good job. Try to align that a bit better on the fuselage. But overall, that's pretty great. The shape is pretty good. The wings are very smooth. I really like that. So for experience level, I'll give you 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, next we have a Boeing 777-300ER KLM Orange Pride livery and the Papercraft template. And this builder says that they are experienced. This is really good. The fuselage looks great. It's very neat and smooth all throughout, even to the back. That's awesome. The engines look great. There's a little bit of, not warping, but a little bit of folding there. So try to roll it a bit smoother, but everything else, amazing. That's great. I see the wings, there's a little bit of a crease there. It's probably from the support structure under. So when you're folding the wing down, try to avoid pressing on that support structure underneath to not get that creasing. Try to get that wing to be a little bit smoother, but hey, overall this is really good. Experience level, I'll give you 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, next we have a Boeing 707. It's a little models airport template, and this builder says that they are experienced. Alright, I'm a bit confused because if it's a template, you must have printed it, but it looks like you had to mark all the graphics here. So did you build it from scratch, or did you print it, or maybe was the ink too faded? I'm not sure, but try to get it printed if possible, because the way you drew it's not very straight, and I think it detracts from the overall look. 707 landing gear, I think the front landing gear is completely vertical, so try to make that vertical. This engine is bent a little bit in this way, so try to bend it out to be straight like this other inboard engine. Try to glue this wing roots a bit better to the fuselage, and I see that this tail piece right here is disconnected from the other side of the tail piece, so pay attention to that. But again, I have not built little model airport templates, and I know that this is a really small scale, but I do think that a lot of details could be neater, especially at the experienced level. So for experienced level, I would rate this 2 out of 5 stars. Alright, we're finally at the last model of this marathon session. We have a Citycraft 737-200 in the US Airways Metrojet livery, and this builder says that they are experienced. Hey, this is really great. I know who this is. I know that this is 1/200 scale. At 1/200 scale, making these small pieces over here, these tiny fuselage parts, it's insane. I could not do that with my skill. I don't have the patience for that. My eyes would drive me insane. The fuselage is smooth, the wings are smooth, all the connections in the back here are very neat. From this angle, the wing roots are also very good. And given this scale, 1/200, this is perfect. Experience level, I will rate this 6 out of 5 stars. Okay, well, this concludes this really long session of rating your Papercraft models. Please like this if you liked it. Give me a subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And if you want your models reviewed, I will leave a link to the forum in the description. Alright, thanks so much. See you in the next video.